YouTube, my Philadelphia 76ers have had easily one of the most active off seasons of the 2024 NBA summer, okay? And not only do we have almost an entirely different roster heading into the 2025 NBA season, we also bring in superstar two-way wing Paul George to create a dynamic trio of elite NBA talent in Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxiell, and PG. We also shake up the entire rest of the roster, including big-time additions such as Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond, and Eric Gordon. We have a phenomenal draft with two excellent potential talents. I think it's safe to say that Daryl Morey has done about as good of a job as you can, and this video is going to be a 76ers deep dive video where we go over every single move they've made in the 2024 NBA offseason. So that will include the 2024 NBA draft, trades, free agency, re-signings, additions, and departures, all of that good stuff, folks, in this video. I'm going to be going in lengthy detail about all of those moves, and then after that, we're going to be doing a massive roster inventory deep dive of my Philadelphia 76ers. I am so excited to make this video, and you guys actually saw that correctly. This is going to be over an hour of 76ers coverage. If you guys have been following the channel, you know we do these deep dives pretty consistently on this channel. We've almost covered every single NBA team at this point in great detail, but I thought it would only be right if we covered my Philadelphia 76ers with a little bit of extra care and precision, and that is why this video is going to be a little bit longer than the rest of the deep dives, because for one, I just, know a lot more about my team than some others. And for number two, I kind of just feel like it. What's the use of having an NBA channel or a deep dive series if you can't put a little extra punch into your own team's videos, right? We're going to start with the offseason. My fellow 76ers fans, let me know down in the comments section how we're feeling about our team next year. I personally have never been this excited to be a 76ers fan other than maybe the 2019, second half of the season after we traded for Jimmy Butler. This team is as good as that team in my opinion, and I think you guys should be as excited as me. Without further ado, let's get right into the Philadelphia 76ers deep dive for the upcoming 2025 NBA season. Let's go, folks. And so, as I mentioned, we're going to have to start with the offseason, and, actually we'll start with the re-signings category. That's usually where we jump off at, and we do have over a dozen moves to get through in this offseason portion of the video. We're going to be here a while, and I'm excited about it. I'm here for it, folks. And it is going to take a long time because I'm going to go in great detail and re-signing, starting with Kyle Lowry. And Kyle Lowry, a Philadelphia native, a, Villanova alumni, Hall of Fame type of NBA point guard, maybe the greatest Toronto Raptor in their history. He extends on a one-year veteran minimum, and obviously we acquire Kyle Lowry halfway through the season last year, traded to the Charlotte Hornets for Terry Rozier III, and then bought out directly after that, where we pick him up in the buyout market. And Kyle Lowry had an excellent impact on the Sixers last season if you paid attention. I mean, for one, at his age, he's still got some game to him, okay? For one, he can still provide some offensive capabilities, whether it's scoring or playmaking or just running an offense in general. Doesn't matter how old he is. Two, he's an excellent defender in terms of positioning. He always seems to know where he is supposed to be in regards to the defensive positioning. He'll take a charge every now and then. He's really good at taking those charges. Again, great playmaker, great three-point shooter, still got a little bit of offensive pop to him. Also a gritty, tough leader, the kind of guy, you just can trust late in a game to make good decisions with the basketball. Not even that. We obviously know he has had extensive experience with Coach Nurse, obviously winning a finals in 2019 with the Toronto Raptors, being his point guard. So it's almost like having an extension of Coach Nurse out there on the floor at any given time when Kyle Lowry's out there. He knows exactly what Coach Nurse is going to expect from him. He knows how to make those plays, and he can still, execute at a high level at his age. It doesn't really matter. I know he's a little bit slow. I know he's a little bit old, but man, this is one of the better, reliable, more veteran point guards that you can have coming off the bench. I love the re-signing for Kyle Lowry. It is such an underrated thing about our team last season, how he impacted us on both ends of the floor. He's a guy that can come in short bursts and make a big impact, find a way to impact the game on many different levels, whether it's hustle, energy, defensive playmaking, ripping ball handlers on a drive, being a pest on the ball. He's capable of these things in short bursts, taking a charge, as I already mentioned, hitting a big three-pointer late in the game, making good decisions with the basketball. He's not going to turn the ball over very much. Obviously, he just thinks the game very well. He's an excellent basketball IQ guy with a ton of experience in any situation. He's definitely seen pretty much every defense, you could throw about him at this point. And this is a guy you want to be on your team. Like he's a leader, he's a winner, and I am so excited to see Kyle Lowry again next season for my 76ers. Like, it's gonna be crazy because there is so much guard depth on this team. Like, it's almost like crazy to think about who's gonna be that backup point guard. It's probably gonna be Lowry, but then you have a ton of other guys we're gonna talk about in a little bit that could be fighting for some of those minutes. So, I think Lowry's gonna have like maybe a 15 minutes per game type of role where he comes in, like I said, in those short bursts and makes big plays and, does big things in those short spans. Not necessarily a guy you want to put out there 20, 25, 30 minutes a game anymore. If he has to, maybe he can once in a while, but, he is old. He will need his rest. Not necessarily the most spry player anymore. So I think, he's best utilized in that 15 minutes per game type of role to, substitute for Tyrese Maxiell. Can play with a lot of different lineups because of his skill set. And I just love the re-signing on a veteran minimum. So underrated for my Sixers. KJ Martin returns on a 2-year deal worth up to $16 million. It'll be like a 2-year, $8 million per year type of deal. And before I talk about KJ Martin and, his role on the Sixers, like we have to talk about how basically a lot of people view this as a balloon type of contract. And what I mean by balloon contract is that a lot of people think that the reason he was signed to this amount of money in this amount of years is because he's going to be used as a trade asset come deadline time. So I don't even think the Sixers can trade him until like January, I believe, with the contract. But since he's on such a big deal, like for him, I guess, no offense to KJ Martin, but this is a little bit bigger than you would think he would get of a deal. He is a solid player, but again, not to minimize him, but I think this re-signing is for a trade piece. Like a lot of talk has been around him and Dorian Finney-Smith, whether or not he'll be used in a Dorian Finney-Smith package around deadline time. Dorian Finney-Smith, obviously the Brooklyn Nets power forward, capable of versatile power forward play on both ends of the floor, good shooter, great defender, good rebounder. I think that's most likely the scenario you're going to see with KJ Martin, but we'll just have to see what that trade looks like, if at all. You throw in KJ Martin, maybe a couple picks, you can match a lot of different type of salaries. This is a smart move by Daryl Morey. Either way you look at it, maybe you could have a guy that can match a bunch of trade salaries, like I said, with that $8 million a year type of contract. But then also, if it turns out you want to keep KJ Martin, like he's certainly in line to compete with someone else we're going to talk about for some of those backup power forward minutes. This is a great athlete. I mean, he's again one of the better dunkers we've had on the Sixers in a long time. Great transition finisher. He's a strong guy, maybe a little bit undersized for a power forward, but I do think he provides a lot of effort and athleticism on defense. He's just a dominant power athlete, and I think if he can develop a little bit of a consistent 3-ball, that's the only thing really missing from his game, why he's not able to be in late game rotations and stuff like that. And I think that is the biggest thing he's gonna have to work on. If he can shoot a league average 36% on a couple attempts per game, like he's a dangerous player considering he can handle the ball and attack closeouts if he's able to be respected by some of those perimeter defenders for that jump shot. Like I think that's gonna be the biggest thing for him. He'll be great, attacking closeouts guy with that finishing ability and dribbling ability, but basically, KJ Martin, I do think it is a balloon contract to put in a trade package down the line, probably around January, February. You will hear his name quite a bit involved in a Dorian Finney-Smith package or a player like Dorian Finney-Smith in the future. But I just love the move by Daryl Morey because either way you slice it, if he gets better at 3-point shooting, you have a solid backup 4 who will be competing with someone else that we're going to talk about, an overseas player. If not, you have a nice size contract for a trade package. I love the signing. I really do. The biggest re-signing of the offseason is Tyrese Maxiell, folks. This is our savior. This is a guy that Joel Embiid, the process himself, actually has deemed the franchise. And Tyrese Maxiell, that is a fitting name if you watch any amount of Sixers basketball. Is there one person in the NBA that hates Tyrese Maxiell? Maybe a couple Knicks fans, maybe a couple Celtics fans, but I think even a lot of them would say that like it's just, fun to watch Tyrese Maxiell play. It's hard to hate this guy. It really is. You will never find a Sixers fan that doesn't like Tyrese Maxiell, but just strictly on the court, like his production. I mean, taking over that point guard role last season with the James Harden drama. After the trade, before the trade, he really steps into that lead ball handler playmaker role and excels at it. We saw a lot of growth from Tyrese for that playmaking ability in those pick and roll situations, those pocket passes. He's able to do that more consistently than we thought. This is an all-star player last season, earning his first all-star and his most improved player award, so it is only up as well. I think a lot of people are seeming to think that Tyrese Maxiell will not even improve more in his career because he's already, come such a long way and developed into one of the league's probably top 30 players or so. I think that's nonsense. I think he is absolutely going to still get better considering every single year he's been in the league, we thought he was maxed out at his potential and he got better every single year. He's always been in new roles every year as well. This is a thing where, this is him coming into the season in a same role that he was last year. This is something he hasn't been able to do in his career as sort of a continuity thing. And Tyrese Maxiell obviously one of the league's best shooters, one of the league's best scorers from that guard position. Now he adds the playmaking bag to him. He has, dramatically improved in his shot creation ability and shot making ability from, the self creation department. And so you're seeing a very different type of Tyrese Maxiell. We saw his confidence level go through the roof last season. Coach Nurse had a big impact on him as well, not just Embiid. I think he did have a big impact on Tyrese Maxiell. We saw him grow as a leader, and during the time Joel was down, I think that was very present within him. The leadership ability, the guy that had to step up and be the number one option when Joel went down, he took that and learned a lot from it. We saw him have massive clutch performances in the playoffs against the New York Knicks. Like, he's our guy, man. Like, 5 years, $204 million extension. Some people are saying 205, some people are saying 204. Either way, I wish we could pay him more because he deserves it after sacrificing that extension for a whole year. Like, I don't think people really realize it's actually similar to a Jalen Brunson type of situation. Now they're saying they're doing the same thing with the Houston Rockets with Şengün and Jalen Green. So, this is a guy that is only going to get better. I could see him being a multiple-time All-Star by the time his contract is over, and hopefully another max extension after that one, because we need Tyrese to stay in Philadelphia, protect Tyrese at all costs. This is our number 2 option. Despite adding PG, I think people would agree this is the second best player on the Sixers. He's only getting better, folks. And Tyrese Maxiell, we just love you so much in Philadelphia. Thank you for all you do. There's a reason he gets a museum, and nobody else does, because we just love this guy so much. Tyrese Maxiell, just a hero of this team. I mean, if we didn't have Tyrese, we'd be in a lot of trouble right now. I think we can all agree on that. So we'll talk about this. We'll talk about all these players in the roster deep dive later. But I wish I could say more great things about Tyrese Maxiell because there's just so many great things to say. And then the last re-signing, Kelly Oubre Jr. re-signs on a 2-year, $16 million deal. Listen, this is a great signing as well. Kelly Oubre Jr. going to be our starting 2 guard next season, probably one of the bigger 2 guards in the league, which pairs great next to Maxey. But Kelly Oubre, comes over from Charlotte last season, okay, on a veteran minimum deal. This is a guy who averaged 20 points per game on Charlotte the season prior. And so you're saying, wow, 20 points per game, veteran minimum, how does that work, right? I think a lot of, organizations lost a lot of confidence in Kelly Oubre Jr. because, they say, oh, he was on a bad team and he, took too many shots and that can't translate to wins. He's never been on a winning team. Like, this is a guy that is selfish. That was the narrative coming into last season. Can he provide a role? Can he play a role on a good team instead of being a top scorer? And we saw that in spades with our Sixers last season. Kelly Oubre being consistently one of the best players throughout the 2024 season for us on both ends of the floor. I mean, this is a great perimeter defender, like really solid, man, really solid perimeter guy. Great length to be able to guard 2 through 3 or 2 through 4 or 1 through 3, whatever you want to call it. Versatile type of perimeter defender. And offensively, I think you saw a lot of growth as a role player. Like, Kelly Oubre has talked about how he loves the opportunity the Sixers gave him because basically he's never had a chance to be on a contender. And last season he proved that he's able to do that as a role player. And I think, maybe you see Kelly Oubre be like the 4th or 5th leading scorer on this team. And I think you got to be pretty happy about that because this guy took obviously a dip in his shots last season, but performed at a great level in my opinion offensively as well. I mean, he's never going to be the most efficient offensive player, but what he will give you is a quick first step at getting to the rim. He can finish over almost anyone with that supreme leaping and athletic ability that he possesses. Great finishing ability, as I mentioned. He can create for himself in a pinch, in a hot potato grenade type of situation late in a shot clock. He can get you a decent shot. Off the dribble, he's incredible. In transition, he's amazing as a lob threat or a finisher. Again, defensively, he's a monster on the perimeter, in my opinion. Exceptional one-on-one perimeter defender. But, if he's able to be a little bit less streaky as a 3-point shooter, I think that is what you're hoping to see most from Kelly Oubre next season. Because, last season he was very streaky as a 3-point shooter. If he's in a slump, they're just not going in. And if he's hot, they are going in exceptionally well. Like, he's a guy that can fill the stat sheet up in a hurry as far as scoring goes. But he can take different types of threes. He can dribble, pull up. He can, he's not just a catch and shoot guy. I think that's the thing he's going to have to be most next season offensively is catch and shoot, attack, closeouts. Like, those are the 2 things that I think you're going to have to see from him most. It'll be interesting to see how much the defense chooses to respect Kelly Oubre's jumper and what he can do with that. Like, can he make them respect his jumper, on catch and shoots? That's going to be a big deal for us. And either way, he has a lot of capabilities just outside of shooting, but I just think that is going to be something to note. But again, I say like 2 years, $16 million is a great value contract for this guy who is a very capable starting 2 guard in this league and pairs exceptionally well as a complementary piece next to guys like Tyrese, Paul George, and Embiid. Primarily Tyrese as the 2 guard. I love the re-signing there. This is a guy we we needed to bring back, and I just thank Daryl for doing it. So those are the re-signings, obviously some big ones in, our future of the franchise and Tyrese Maxey. I think you could say whatever happens with Joel and PG, like Tyrese is the guy that's going to have to be here in 5 to 10 years. So, locking him down is big, but where we really made our bread and butter this offseason is the additions category. So let's get into that, because while the re-signings are, really good, the additions are what's drawing eyes to our city right now. And folks, we're going to have to start with Philadelphia P, or, obviously Paul George being the biggest free agent on the market this season, that was potentially going to leave his team. There were guys like LeBron and some of these other guys that, realistically, they just weren't going to leave their team. But PG was the one that, people thought he could actually, move somewhere else. A lot of people are saying, he was going to stay on the West Coast. That's what he wanted. He ends up signing a 4-year maximum contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, and I could not be more excited as a 76ers fan. Paul George, everybody knows about his dynamic two-way capabilities, okay? Even at his age of 34 years old, this is still an all-star level player that as a third option, you could make a case he's the best third option in the entire league, okay? Certainly in the Eastern Conference, I think that's kind of fair. Listen, a lot of people are, I'm just gonna get this, negative narratives out of the way. A lot of people don't like the contract. They say, oh, Paul George, he's not gonna make that big of an impact. He's getting older, by the time he's 38, he's gonna be making 50, plus $1 million, whatever it is. He's overrated, he's inconsistent, he's not that much of an impact player for that money. I completely disagree, and I'm gonna shut that down right here. Listen, I understand the fear of him being, 38, making 50 million. I get where these people are coming from, but I will say, this signing adds a level of dynamic two-way capabilities for our team that we have not had this type of wing shot creator since Jimmy Butler. And the year we did have Jimmy Butler, I might add, we had the best chance to win that we've ever had during the Embiid era. So to say that this isn't a massive upgrade is kind of crazy to me. I mean, I get the points about it, but I also think you have to, at some point, you have to put all the chips on the table. And I think, this is Daryl doing that. And I don't know how you could be unhappy with Paul George, coming over here. That we don't get this type of player very often in free agency in our city. We just don't, I personally think, Paul George, again, is going to make a level of dynamic impact on both ends of the floor, primarily offensively, though, that we just don't have. We just haven't had during the Embiid era other than Jimmy Butler. And the thing is, people are going to say, I'm sure the first time he scores a 17, 14 point game, people are going to roast him. Listen, man, I'm not super worried about his production as far as points per game and, all that stuff during the regular season. All I want from PG is to play above 65, 70 games next season at similar production to what you'd see before from him. But come playoff time, this is where it's really going to matter, man. I don't care if he scores 19 points per game next season. I know people are going to expect 20 to 25 points per game on 8 attempts per game from 3 on 40%. All of that's nice if he can do that. But what's really important to me is just the skill set that he brings, and having a situation late in a game where we say, okay, you know what, they're doubling the big fella again down low, okay, and someone's got to step up and hit some big shots one-on-one again, in crunch time. This is where the men are separated from the boys, and we just don't have a player like that. We haven't had a player like that to say, late in game situations in crunch time where you say, all right, man, someone's got to go one-on-one and get a basket. Someone's just got to, this is where that has to happen. And PG is 100% the perfect type of player to bring to the table as far as one-on-one ISO scorer that can, score on 3 levels exceptionally well, especially the three-point shooting. The three-point shooting is so underrated for PG. He's one of the best shooters in the league. If you look at the volume and you look at the types of threes he takes, he can shoot over anyone with a hand in his face, from 30 feet away. It's absolutely wild. That is the exact type of player you want to pair with Tyrese and Joel. But again, the skill set, and that is what I'm most concerned with. If he is truly able to be available for those types of situations, that's what I'm most concerned with. That is what we bring him here for. It's not for regular season production. It's not for any other reason. It's to get us past the second round, man. That's what it is. This is the guy that steps up in those situations. I know people are going to say, oh, he's a choker, he hasn't won a championship. That's nonsense. Listen, if you look at the situation with context, I'm telling you right now, other than maybe 2020, when exactly was PG supposed to win a championship? I think, with his time with the Pacers, he exceeded expectations, took one of the greatest teams and players ever to 7 games, basically by himself as the lone star on that team. And in OKC, he had one of his best couple seasons there. I know there have been some lackluster, playoff performances, but at the end of the day, I don't think you can blame him not winning a championship on solely him when you look at some of the teams he's had to work with. The last few seasons, seasons, he's been known as the guy that carries the Clippers to the playoffs when Kawhi Leonard is out with injury. He has been extremely reliable in that department. He took them to the Western Conference Finals in 2021, basically by himself. Like, this is a guy that, this is what you bring him in for, man. I'm telling you, it's not as simple as like, you know, regular season numbers and, you know, money versus like regular season production. Like I'm telling you, it's about the skill set that he brings on both ends of the floor. For, you know, the defensive side of the floor, he's able to guard multiple positions. He is a top tier perimeter defender when he's engaged and locked in. Obviously at his age, he's not gonna be able to burn the candle at both ends like he used to, but when he needs to, he can get a stop on almost any type of perimeter player. When we're talking about guys like Tatum and Jaylen Brown, this is a great matchup for PG. There's a reason Bag Twitter loves this guy so much as like their champion, and it's because his bag is immense. Doesn't matter what matchup it is, a smaller player, bigger player, similar size player, similar, you know, level athlete, he can cook anyone one-on-one, and he can do it consistently, and he can shoot off the ball as well as anyone in the entire league. This is the perfect fit next to Tyrese and Joel, and I don't care what anyone says. Let's move on. You also add a exceptional replacement in, you know, nights where Joel Embiid needs to rest. You know, you put in this guy and he's gonna, you know, give as good a value as you can for a backup five, as well as, you know, just substitutions. We're talking about Andre Drummond here, folks, who signs on a 2-year $10 million contract. I absolutely love this move. It is very impactful for me because while there is a center that we lost that I absolutely love, and I know you guys do too, other Sixers fans, we love this guy that we lost who went to Detroit. We'll talk about him in a minute. Andre Drummond is obviously one of the best backup fives in the league. He played exceptionally well when he was with the Sixers for that short period of time. Obviously, you know, being involved in that James Harden trade, you know, in that package, we send over Drummond, Seth Curry, and Ben Simmons and a couple picks for James Harden. But for that half a season or whatever it was, you know, that Drummond was here, he was exceptional. Probably the best backup five we've seen for Joel Embiid. No offense to the other guy we're going to talk about. Last season in the playoffs against the New York Knicks, we saw the Sixers get absolutely bodied on the rebounds. If you're Daryl Morey, you say, hey, we're going to go out and get, you know, one of the greatest rebounders of all time. I don't say that lightly. Look at the numbers. He just is one of the greatest rebounders of all time. He's still capable of providing solid 20 minutes per game. If you need him to come in and start on those Joel Embiid rest days, we already heard from Daryl Morey, Joel Embiid will be sitting back-to-backs most of the time this season, which I think is a good call. This is a guy that can fill that starting center spot in a very nice way. Like, if you need a spot start, he is exceptional. Again, probably one of the best backup fives being able to do that. Imagine a scenario where you're an opposing defense or an opposing team playing against the Sixers. 4 minutes through the game, Joel's got 12 points, and, you know, your starting center's in foul trouble. You say, oh my goodness, thank the heavens, thank the basketball gods, he's being substituted. Who's coming in? Oh, another guy that's 7 foot, 280 pounds, Andre Drummond, who's just gonna bully whoever his matchup is on the interior. Like, the foul trouble these big men are gonna get in from the Drummond and Embiid, like, you know, substitution thing is wild, okay? And so you always have now, if Joel's active, if Drummond's active, a legit 7-footer with exceptional size to come in and just be a dominant interior presence. Look, Andre Drummond's going to come in about, you know, 15-20 minutes a game on those backup 5 days where Joel Embiid is playing, and he's just going to eat up the glass. He's going to eat up space. He's a great screen setter as well. That's another thing the Sixers just haven't had for a while, is a great screen setter. He's one of the better roll men, I think, on this team that can finish at the rim on, you know, good pick and roll quality opportunities. Like, he's going to have, you know, a lot of opportunities at that, I think, and just a big time body to set good screens. We just haven't had a great screen setter like that in a while. You know, PJ Tucker was probably the last great one we've had, but he's just a monster on the glass. And, you know, the putbacks, the offensive rebounds, going to be so many of them to be able to kick out to open shooters. We have a ton of shooting on this team now, and he's going to be a big part of that, you know, getting them open looks from those offensive rebounds, as well as, like, I think he is still capable of providing solid interior defense. Like, I'm not sure he's necessarily a great rim protector or anything like that, or, you know, you want him in space necessarily, but I'm just saying, I think on the, you know, interior defensively, I think he's solid enough to be able to hang with a lot of teams, you know, their backup fives. But again, the size, the rebounding, the hustle, he's a great hustle guy, the screens, the, you know, pick and roll finishing, like, I just think all of this is so consistent for him. He's a great backup five in this league. And on those nights where you need Joel to take a rest, like, he can come in and basically be probably the best backup five, you know, that you need to start a game, you know, other than maybe Naz Reid. Like, he's going to come in and start as quality as any other backup five. So, you know, this is one of the more underrated signings of the offseason, and I think he's just going to make such a big impact on all those levels. I love Andre Drummond. I love the 2-year $10 million deal. Another great signing there for Drummond. Probably the second, you know, most impactful signing, though, probably not even Drummond, is Caleb Martin, who comes over on a 4-year $30+ million deal with the Miami Heat. You know, that's where he's from, and it signs with the Sixers on that contract. Listen, Caleb Martin is probably going to be our starting power forward. You say, well, D-Have, you know, he's listed at 6'4" to 6'7". Like he's a very small power forward. He's got a wing or guard type of body. Power forward, that's crazy, right? Well, I'm going to tell you why I think it's not crazy, because Caleb Martin, while he is very small for the position, certainly undersized, light as well, he is very long and skilled as a defender. So he can certainly guard most power forwards with his length and defensive skills, right? This is a guy, one of the more versatile type of, defenders we're going to have next season. He is going to be an absolute nightmare to go against defensively because of his, versatile switchable capabilities. This is the most switchable Sixers lineup I've ever seen. Point blank period. Maybe 2021 was similar, but I just don't think so. I think defensively you have 4 capable switchable defenders, okay? Other than Tyrese, your starting lineup's definitely going to be Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, Paul George, Caleb Martin, Joel Embiid. Unless something changes or I'm, losing my mind here, I think that's what it's going to be. Other than Tyrese, you have 4 players that can switch on multiple positions, and most of them at that. So Caleb Martin, he can guard 2 guards, maybe even switch on a point guards at times, play solid defense there, use his length, disrupt ball handlers. He fights around screens. He can easily guard a 3, and I think the 4, guarding the 4s is going to be a lot more easy and natural to him than you think. Like offensively, he has a dynamic skill set as well. I mean, he hits big shots in big moments. We saw this with the Miami Heat against the Celtics multiple times. Caleb Martin steps up in big moments, hits big shots, has big time performances offensively. Like, I just think he's so complimentary. He is the ultimate utility piece for this team on both ends of the floor. I mean, he's going to be hitting big time catch and shoot opportunities. He can create a little bit for himself when he needs to. He can play make. He can dribble, shoot, pass. These are the type of complementary pieces you look for around your superstars, okay? Dribble, shoot, pass. Keep that in mind. The reason he slides in so well with this lineup, or with any lineup really, is because we now have 5 players on this team that can dribble, shoot, and pass. Our starting lineup is all 5 of them can do that. So when you see teams like the Celtics and a lot of times the Nuggets and teams like this just harmonizing perfectly offensively, drive and kick, drive and kick, drive and kick, eventually, most of the time you end up with a wide open 3 or a wide open layup. I mean, it's just that simple. When you have enough smart players that can all dribble, shoot, pass, that are all, good enough in all of those regards, you're just going to end up with wide open shots. It doesn't really matter what the defense does, as we saw, with the Boston Celtics a lot of times. So, it's just kind of similar to that. I mean, it harmonizes perfectly offensively. Now we have 5 players that can do that. And when the defense takes that away, right? Let's say it's a Miami Heat defense and they take away, the drive and kick, some type of zone, defense. Now we have 3 elite shot creators on the floor. So, you can't really double anyone, and you're going to get one-on-one matchups. I mean, it's just like, it's the perfect recipe for success adding Caleb Martin. He's the last link offensively to this, 5-man harmonized lineup, right? With the, drive and kick. So it's just going to be wide open shots. And when it's not wide open shots, it's going to be one-on-one matchups for our 3 superstars. And on the bench offensively, we have a lot of similar guys as well. So Caleb Martin, this is a fantastic signing for Daryl Morey. We've also just needed, another role player to come in and do big things in, big moments when the team needs it most. This is one of the guys you look to, and it just always plays above his means. Like, he just always plays better than he's expected to and makes big things happen. If you've been following the Sixers in the playoffs the last few years, like, that's just, we don't have enough of those guys. So on both ends of the floor, he is the missing piece for me, in my opinion. I think he's, an exceptional addition, and I love the, value for the contract as well. It's a great value deal. If you know about the Miami Heat contract situation, I'm not his agent. I'm not here to talk about that, but like, listen, we are so excited to have you at Philadelphia, Caleb. Thank you so much for choosing us. This guy is gonna be so much better than you think, I'm telling you. Some other big additions. We have Eric Gordon, a longtime NBA veteran who has had a ton of success scoring the basketball in this league, okay? So Eric Gordon, he actually had a very prominent role last season with the Phoenix Suns. This is a great shooter from the perimeter, okay? He's a, 2-guard, kind of a combo guard type of guy. He's a little bit undersized for a 2-guard. Not sure how great he's going to be defensively at his age, I don't necessarily think he's the worst defender in the league, but I don't think he's going to be great either. This is a guy that comes off the bench at the 2-guard that provides quality shooting for this lineup in the second unit. He's also not just a shooter. He can score on multiple levels, floater, mid-range shot. He's just a, great scorer. He's a natural scorer, okay? And again, last season for the Suns, played a prominent role, played very well in that role, but the big thing to note after watching Eric Gordon so much throughout his career is the range. Like, he has, we talk about Tyrese Maxiell with his range and Paul George with his range. They both can pull up from, 35 feet and knock them down, like, more than you'd think. Eric Gordon has a similar type of range to him. He's going to take very deep threes. He's going to knock them in consistently. The catch and shoots are going to be off the charts. He's just a sniper from the outside. And I think he also has ability to play make for others with the ball in his hands, make good decisions. Again, another veteran who's seen every type of coverage in in this league. He's had a lot of success on those Rockets teams. You know, last season with Phoenix, he did a great job in his role. Again, we just get him on a 2-year, league minimum, and I think that is an exceptional value piece for the Sixers as probably your backup 2 guard. But again, he's a sniper, man. He's gonna knock him down. Super efficient from the outside on high volume. It'll be interesting to see with this guard rotation how much he plays compared to some other guys, but we'll talk about that in a bit with the roster deep dive. But I just think this is one of the more under the radar type of signings for the Sixers as well. I mean, depth and versatility has always been the issue with the Sixers. Like, when they have the depth, they don't have the star power. When they have the star power, they don't have the depth. That's been our problem with roster construction since the Embiid era, and now I think we have all of it. We talk about guys that we're going to get into off the bench with this bench depth, and it's incredible. We talked about Drummond, we talked about the versatility with these 3 wings, right? Martin, Oubre, and PG, and now you get basically 4 rotation caliber guards that are on this team. So the versatility and the star powers here, but Eric Gordon just does a big time role in adding to that, and I think Eric Gordon's gonna be a great complementary piece off the bench offensively. He's gonna provide a lot to this team night in and night out. Reggie Jackson, another guard that we bring in that is a veteran, that is a high quality offensive role player for the last few years. He had a big time role throughout his career offensively with some teams, primarily Detroit Pistons. Spent a lot of good years with the Pistons, the Clippers, started with the Thunder. Reggie Jackson is an absolute dog. A lot of these guys you could say that for, that Daryl brought in this offseason, they all have similar qualities, man. They're all competitors. I expect Reggie Jackson, having a prominent role in the Denver Nuggets last season, maybe a little bit of an inflated role, unfortunately for him, but he did play well in it. Another solid playmaker, as a point guard that can score for himself, hunt shots and fill it up offensively. But I do expect Reggie Jackson to be probably the 3rd point guard off the bench. Again, there's so many guards on this team. It'll be interesting to see what Coach Nurse decides to do, but having 3 of them be similar age, right? Like, we have Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, and now Reggie Jackson all getting up there in their 30s. I wouldn't feel comfortable with any of them playing 30 plus minutes a game. I don't think any of them will, but I think if you stagger all 3 of them, you're going to get really good value. I think Reggie Jackson's probably the least valuable of those 3 next season, but I do think if there's a situation where knock on wood, one of those, hopefully this does not happen. Please, basketball gods, we need good health. If this doesn't happen, hopefully, but injuries do happen, okay? So if Kyle Lowry, especially when you're older, Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, it's just great to have a guy like Reggie Jackson as a 3rd string point guard, or a 3rd string smaller, creator guard off the bench. What type of team has that luxury other than us? We just have so much depth off the bench for the guard. So Reggie Jackson, great league minimum signing. And I just think it's astounding to me how much guard depth we have. It's unreal offensively how much firepower these guards have. And for the last edition, we have the standout breakout Olympian from France who previously played with the Boston Celtics in the NBA, Guerschon Yabusele. And Yabusele, he's a dog. Talk about a guy that competes. This guy is, again, probably gonna be fighting for minutes with a guy like, KJ Martin or those backup 4 minutes, okay? But I think Yabusele has a little bit more of a dynamic skill set than KJ Martin, but maybe not as good of an athlete or defender. I think Yabusele is going to provide so much grit and toughness to this team, whether he plays a big role or not. But this is a really good 3-point shooter we get on a 1-year $2 million deal from overseas, okay? And Yabusele has a big body, another guy that is plus 250. I think he's listed at 6'8", 280. So that is wild to me that he's that big. Imagine a pairing of him and Drummond on the rebounds. We're just never going to get out rebounded if those two are our backup 4 and 5. If we're getting killed on the glass, those are the substitutions right there. But 2 big bodies there. But Yabusele, again, he's a great big body role player. Hustles like nobody else we've seen in a while on this team. He's just a great complementary piece. I think he's a solid stretch 4, shoots the 3 well. Has a little bit of offensive bag to him. I think you mostly see him in a corner, 3-and-D kind of role that has good fundamentals. A lot of these overseas guys do. We can, pass very well. We saw that exceptional poster dunk on LeBron James during the Olympics. This is a great signing, and honestly, I knew we had this last roster spot to fill, and that's why I waited so long to make this Sixers video, because I didn't want to make this video until we, filled out that last roster spot. So thank you, Yabusele, for being the missing piece. I love love the signing. I think, this is probably the best guy on the market for the type of role we wanted. We heard about Davis Bertans. We heard about Marcus Morris Sr. I think this is the most high upside guy that, if you're looking for a backup four that can, fight for those minutes with a guy like KJ Martin, I think Yabusele might be a little bit more versatile at this point in his career than KJ Martin. And either way, you have two different types of players in that regard. Yabusele is more of a, skill set type of floor spacing power forward that's going to be a big body that can rebound, that can set good screens, play off the ball exceptionally well offensively, defensively, try to make plays, provide a lot of effort and grit on the defensive end. And, I just think KJ Martin's a lot different of a player where he's going to be transition scoring, great athlete, big time, offensive rebounder, stuff like that. So I think it's just, two different type of looks that you could do for any type of, given matchup. But I think they both compete for backup 4 minutes. It would be interesting to see who gets it. But I love the signing of Guerschon Yabusele. I love it. And apparently after the Olympics, there was a lot of teams interested in this guy. And, of course, Daryl pulls it off because why wouldn't he? He's Daryl. So yeah, those are the additions. Obviously some very big ones. Again, I'm 50 minutes into the recording right now. You guys are probably 30 minutes into the video or so, but holy cow, this is a crazy long record. This could be over probably an hour and a half video, but let's get into the departures category because there are quite a few of those as well. And for the departures, let's get this hot take right out of the way because, I've been criticized for this take of mine that I've given several times, and that is about Sixers fan favorite Tobias Harris, right? I've been labeled a fake Sixers fan, not representing the city at all. Listen, you could be, you're totally right to say that about me. I will stand by my take. Tobias Harris, let's just get this out of the way, right? Philly fans obviously are, totally, again, right to criticize Tobias Harris for his time here. Obviously signs a 5-year, $180 million contract. Let's be honest, he was never worth 5 years, $180 million. My take is that, it's not his fault that he had that contract, okay? I totally get where people are angry about him, where, people are 100% going to boo him on that Pistons game that he comes back. I think it's the 4th game of the season for us. He's coming back to Philly with the Pistons, and, he signs a 2-year, $52 million contract with the Pistons. Let's just get that out of the way. But my take is basically it's not his fault that he signed that contract, and it was overpaid. It's not. I would have signed the contract too. I think you guys would have as well. You could call me a hater, you could call me, a contrarian, you could call me a fake Philly fan. I don't care. I think that I'm going to stand by my takes. Tobias, for the most part, I think, there are real legitimate criticisms you can have for him, like the 0-point playoff games, right? Those are pretty bad. Missing bunny layups, missing wide open catch and shoot threes, not taking enough shots at all, really not being good enough to play as a, third option on the, winning team, and really not being the right type of player to be an off-ball type of role player. Okay, so I totally understand where we're coming from with the Tobias Harris stuff. I'm mostly in agreement towards, a lot of the criticisms, but for one of the criticisms, the overpaid part, I don't agree with that. I think it's a little bit misguided to blame him for his large contract. I understand that Philly fans are passionate. I am one of them. I boo everybody that I can when I think they should be booed. But, Tobias Harris, I think, for the most part, was a professional throughout his time here. He didn't, throw a temper tantrum like Harden or Ben Simmons. He didn't, lash out at the fans really. To be able to get booed that much by your own city and, basically still come to work every day as a professional and give everything you can. I don't think he gave up on this team. I don't think he really ever did that. He never stood out or did anything amazing for this team. I think we could say that, but I do find it admirable that Tobias Harris hung in there with all of the hatred towards him by his own fan base and went out there and, basically just tuned it out. Okay. So I do find that kind of admirable that he came to work every day, was a real professional about the whole thing. He understood, but I just think for the most part, Tobias, did everything he could. I just don't think he was, as good of a player as the contract indicated, clearly, or we wouldn't be having this discussion at all. He's just not that good of a player. But I also don't really think that's his fault. I don't think if he's trying his best and, just doesn't live up to the contract, I'm not sure that's his fault. I think it's the front office's job to make sure they don't give out bad contracts like that. I think it was Elton Brand and some of those other people gave him that contract. That is where the anger should go to in that case. As far as the contract, as far as the play, of course, criticize your third most high or second highest paid player, or third best player, whatever it is, for scoring 0 points in an elimination game. That's unacceptable. It's awful. It's terrible. We should boo Tobias Harris for that. I'm with you. I'm with you for that. Boo him as loud as you want to. I would do the same thing. But as far as him being on that contract, him receiving all the hate, I can empathize as a fellow human being. I think, that has to get to you. That has to, be something that you think about. And, I'm not saying he's not right to get booed all the time, but I think, for as far as hating him for the contract, that's where I kind of separate. I just don't really think that's the best way to go about this this whole thing. Like if we want the best results, we want to boo Tobias Harris, fine, but I just don't get the contract thing is wild to me. You can call me a fake fan, you can call me soft, you can call me, you know, not Philly, whatever you want to call me, okay? Like I really think that's not a good way to go about it. Like we can just say, oh, Tobias Harris bad, Tobias Harris boo, like sure, but I think adding context to each type of situation is a little bit more important. Like again, call me soft, call me fake Philly, whatever you want to call me. I stand by my take. I call it human, I call it healthy, I call it, you know, viewing the situation with nuance, okay? I don't know, maybe that makes me a fake Philly fan. You know, guys can let me know down in the comments section. You know, I get booing Tobias Harris, I get booing him for the bad play, I get, you know, booing him for underperforming, but I don't understand booing him for not being good enough to live up to that contract. That's not his fault in my opinion, and I do think for the most part he handled it well, about as well as anyone could. You know, I don't think, you know, we would necessarily want him to lash out at the fans like James Harden or Ben Simmons, not necessarily that they lash out at the fans, but you know, throw a temper tantrum. Like that's something he never did. That's something he just didn't see from Tobias. I think for the most part he gave everything he had to the city. He tried to live up to the contract, he tried his best. He just wasn't that type of player, and I don't think that's his fault. Again, call me soft, whatever you want to call me, I'm gonna move on at this point, but you know, maybe that makes me, you know, not a Philly fan. I don't know. So that's the biggest departure. One of the ones that I'm most sad about is Nik Batum obviously having the best performance of that Miami Heat play-in tournament, like saving our season basically last season with that monster three-point shooting barrage he had in that play-in tournament against the Miami Heat. Nik Batum was about as consistent as a role player can get. You know, that quick trigger three is lethal, okay? He actually signs a 2-year, $9 million contract with the Los Angeles Clippers. You know, I'm going to miss Nik Batum because of the versatility. He would have been a great plug-and-play power forward for this lineup, but I think Caleb Martin's a little bit, you know, obviously a much better player with a lot more youth, but I think Nik Batum was someone I definitely wanted to re-sign. Imagine if he was our backup for next season. This team would be insane. He would make it so much more versatile, but you know, Nik Batum, one of the more undervalued players in this league as far as I'm concerned. On both ends, he provides incredible value. You know, he's a great passer for his position. He can guard basically 2 through 4 as well. Not a great athlete, but he positions himself perfectly defensively. You know, offensively with those quick trigger threes, he's lethal from the outside. You know, he's always gonna, you know, make good decisions on both ends of the floor. Like he's just solid complementary glue guy that I think could fit in almost any lineup wherever you put him around the league, and I just think that is a big loss for us, a little bit underrated. Obviously Caleb Martin is a much better player, like I said, but they're kind of different players in some ways, and I think, you know, just having him as a backup 4 would have been massive for this team. Obviously, you know, maybe he didn't want to come back here, I don't know, maybe the offer was lower than what the Clippers gave him, but he ends up going back to the Clippers on a 2-year, $9 million deal. We're definitely going to miss Nik Batum on this city, and talk about someone that probably won't get booed. He'll probably get a standing O that first Clippers game back here. So love Nik Batum, you know, definitely going to miss him. You know, certainly a big loss, no question. Another newly acquired Clipper is Mo Bamba. You know, Mo Bamba being our 3rd string center last season, you know, obviously stepping up, starting some games while Joel went down, playing the backup role while Joel went down sometimes. I think Mo Bamba is a quality backup, you know, or 3rd string center. I think he's probably going to be the backup center in Los Angeles. He signs a 1-year deal with them. I think Mo Bamba has a lot to offer, you know, especially for uniqueness for the backup 5 position. Like I don't think he's the most consistent player, and I don't think he's a player you can count on night to night to give you extremely high value as a backup 5, but I do think what he offers as far as his skill set is impressive. Like the 3-point shooting, the spacing is very, very solid for a player of his size and position. He's obviously a very solid athlete. You know, he can rim protect okay. He's a good weak side shot blocker. He has exceptional size and length to him, like no question, but he does get pushed around in the paint a little bit. He can get lost a little bit defensively at times. You know, doesn't necessarily have the best feel for the game in my opinion, and I just think, you know, as far as a reliable, consistent backup 5, like maybe we get a lot better value in Andre Drummond in that regard. But you know, 2 Clippers, Nik Batum and Mo Bamba at this point, and then 2 Warriors. You know, Buddy Hield, who, you know, we acquired at the deadline last season for those 2 second-round picks. We actually do a sign-in trade with the Golden State Warriors where we recoup one of the second-round picks, which will be a 2031 second-round pick. He again sign and trade with the Warriors. He's going to probably look to replace a lot of that Klay Thompson shooting value, who goes to the Dallas Mavericks. But Buddy Hield for us last season, I think, you know, it was a little bit underwhelming, the fit with Joel. We thought the fit with Joel Embiid would be much better. I think that's fair to say. It was a little bit disappointing. Obviously didn't find a consistent role in the playoff series against the Knicks. You know, had that one big monster quarter against the Knicks. I think it was like to go into the second half, like he ended up shooting the lights out. But what's most important about Buddy Hield is the shooting was the real deal. Like he came over in that trade and I'm expecting, all-time great shooting. That's what his number suggests, and he provided that. He is a just lethal knockdown catch and shoot guy, one of the best in the league. I think he competed a ton defensively. I don't think he's a great defender. This is going to be a big loss. I liked Buddy Hield a lot, but again, I think the fit with Embiid wasn't as good as we wanted. And honestly, I'm not going to necessarily lose sleep over it because we do get the second round pick back, and we tried with the situation, like Daryl tried to put this guy on the floor, provide similar quality, and maybe what JJ Redick had, the two-man game with Embiid was lethal with JJ and Embiid. I thought maybe you would see a similar thing with Buddy and he'd be here a long time. It's unfortunate the way it worked out, but probably not going to lose too much sleep over it because at the end of the day, we do provide, and get really good, great shooters in the offseason to replace him with. So while he is one of the best shooters in the league, and, obviously you would have liked it to have gone a little bit better with the Sixers, again, I just think it didn't really work out and you got to move on. But someone I will miss quite a bit who signs with the Golden State Warriors is DeAnthony Melton. And, Melton was an awesome Sixer, okay? I think we can all, mostly agree about Melton. He just provided so much consistency and stability in this lineup on both ends night to night. Melton had the big back injury last season, didn't end up playing very much towards the end of the year, was out most of the season, but the first year he was here, he was awesome as a role player. I love Melton. I think he's going to be a great fit in Golden State. I'm wishing him the best of luck. I think he, as far as the catch and shoot threes, he's knocked down, he's a sniper out there. And, I do think he has some playmaking ability as well, but defensively, he's one of the better smaller guards in the league on the point of attack. He can just, absolutely smother a ball handler. He can guard a little bit bigger matchups too. I just think he's so good defensively and just such a consistent, complimentary role player as a guard. I just wish him the best. It was one of the guys I wanted to keep around, but, unfortunately, the back injury last season and everything, the way it went, it just didn't work out that way. Melton was a great Sixer, another guy that just gave everything he had to this team, and, you just got to love him for that. Another guy that was just always happy to be playing basketball, always smiling. Him and Maxey looked like they had a lot of fun. But either way, I'm going to miss him. I think that is, something I wish him the best in Golden State. He's a great two-way guard, no question. And then, Bball Paul, this is our fan favorite here, Bball. We could disagree about the Tobias thing. We could disagree. Everyone loves Bball. Kind of similar to Maxey, just an infectious personality, just a really fun player to watch, really fun guy. He provided a lot of, quality backup 5 minutes for our team throughout his years here. Again, a guy that always got better. He's going to be moving on to Detroit along with Tobias Harris. We're all going to be wishing Bball the best. Another guy that's going to get a standing O his first game back, no question. Bball's the man. Everybody loves him. But yeah, undersized center who just plays with the passion that Philadelphia represents. He represented the city well, diving on the floor for loose balls, always giving it 110% on the rebounds. This is the type of guy Philly celebrates and champions. He represented us, similar to the way Kyle Lowry would. And I think, Bball is going to be missed 100%, but again, I think we do 100% upgrade on him at the backup 5 with Andre Drummond. But yeah, it had to happen. As soon as we signed Andre Drummond, I'm like, yeah, this is it for Bball. I think that was, most people's thoughts, and it was sad. We're going to miss him, but, it just, again, I think we upgrade, and I think you got to be pretty okay with the result here. But Bball will get better. Added that 3 to his game last season, and that really could keep him on the floor in Detroit, hopefully. And I really do hope he has a long, prosperous career in the NBA because he's such an awesome person. It's just such a funny guy. We love the effort. We love the hustle. We're going to miss you, Bball. And the last guy that, ends up leaving in free agency is Cameron Payne. And, Cameron Payne, obviously coming out, another guy that came over in the deadline last season in the Patrick Beverley trade. He provided good minutes for us, in the postseason towards the stretch, down the end of the season. He was a good, come in off the bench, provide solid shooting and creation ability offensively as a smaller guard. I do think he played as good as he could have here, in that role. And I think he had a lot of good games with the scoring numbers and stuff like that. But I do think another guy we just replace, I think Eric Gordon takes a lot of those minutes. He, quite frankly, is a little bit better of a player. I like Cam Payne a lot, but he ends up signing a 1-year deal with the New York Knicks. So now he's the enemy. If he gets booed, I'm okay with it because he's the enemy. I'm just, I'm joking. But Cameron Payne, again, good offensive player, put in good time here. And we're going to get similar things from Eric Gordon, potentially Reggie Jackson as well. So I think he makes the Knicks better. But again, I'm not necessarily losing sleep over, losing Cameron Payne at the end of the day. Unfortunately, not to minimize his ability, but that's just kind of the way it goes, and that is all of the re-signings, additions, and departures. I'm at an hour 10 now in this recording. It is so long, and it's probably going to be another hour because we got so much to talk about the draft and the roster deep dive. So now for the next portion of the video, we're going to be getting into the NBA draft. So 2 picks, 2 players. We're going to talk about them thoroughly, and I will catch you guys over there. But first, I just wanted to mention Daryl Morey deserves an immeasurable amount of credit from us for pulling all of these moves moves off. I think all of them for the most part are like exceptionally good. Not too many bad moves. You know, I don't really think any of them are. If you look at them a certain way, this is the best offseason I've ever seen us have. This is the most excited I've ever been. So A+ for the offseason. I have to grade it that, and I have to give Daryl Morey A+ and all of my respect and props for putting this team together. You know, this is what a GM is supposed to be doing. This is like Howie Roseman type stuff. If you guys are Eagles fan, I'm sure a lot of you guys are. Go Birds, by the way. But like this is a masterclass of GM, you know, president of basketball operations work. So without further ado, folks, let's get right into the 2024 NBA draft segment of the video. We're going to talk about our 2 picks. All right, folks. So again, we're going to have to start by giving a little bit of context to this situation. So for the 2024 NBA draft, we were all going into it, I think, as Sixers fans, hoping Daryl would make a big time trade. You know, this is before we actually did make the move and sign Paul George. So we were still lacking that 3rd star, and they were drying up by the minute. Like a lot of them were getting traded to other teams or signing in free agency. Like there was a ton of things happening or looking like, you know, the situation wasn't going well. Like there was a ton of things about, you know, the draft that were up in the air going into, and we thought like, oh, we're going to trade for Brandon Ingram probably. And so Lowry, Markkanen, Zach LaVine, these were other names were brought up in the trade scenarios. Like we have a ton of tradable draft picks, still do, but you know, going into this draft with the 16th overall pick, we just end up making the pick and the 41st overall pick. And so I had to provide that little context, but with the 16th overall pick in the NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Jared McCain out of Duke University, the guard sharpshooter extraordinaire. I've said this before and I'll say it again, folks. I don't care that Jared McCain paints his nails. I don't care that he is a TikToker. What I do care is that he provides solid, good basketball play from the guard position for my Sixers. Okay, so none of that other stuff matters to me. The basketball is what's most important in this situation, and hopefully, you know, he can provide what he did at Duke, because going into this draft, Jared McCain was, you know, seen rightfully so as, you know, maybe potentially the best shooter in the entire draft class, other than maybe Reed Shepherd, the guard out of Kentucky who went to the Houston Rockets. And again, Jared McCain, you know, this is a sharpshooter, lethal type of guard. You know, he does have his drawbacks. One of them being his athleticism. It is not great. Another one being his size, you know, again, not great. He's a smaller guard that's a little bit more slow-footed, but he has elite NBA shooting upside. And when I say elite, I mean like sniper, like, you know, top tier in the league type of, you know, shooting ability potentially. Okay, so his form looks incredible. He can shoot it on the move. He can shoot it off the dribble. He can pull up. Catch and shoots are absolutely money. I mean, you're looking at a high volume potential guy in the future with extremely high shooting upside. Another thing to note about Jared McCain is his competitiveness. This is another guy that just competes super hard. He's an absolute dog and he wants to win basketball games. And I think it'll be interesting to see what his role is with us next season because of all these guards that we have, and particularly the undersized ones. Kyle Lowry, Reggie Jackson, Eric Gordon, like these are all guys that can shoot and, you know, provide high quality, you know, rotation guard role player stuff. So, you know, do we trust Jared McCain with a big role on this team? Do we even play him much at all throughout the regular season? It'll be interesting to see, you know, what his role on this team is. But I think if he has a good summer, if he has a good training camp, if he has a good offseason, you know, working on his game, I think you see a role for this guy, you know, potentially, you know, on this team. And I think his summer league stats were a little bit underwhelming. You know, maybe you saw a little bit, you know, less, you know, high percentages than you'd like from three. If you watch the games, I think he struggled a little bit shooting the ball, but that's a summer league. I mean, you know, this guy's a young player, and I think what he did show in the summer league that really impressed me is the playmaking ability. This is a guy that played a lot of off-ball guard play at Duke. Wasn't necessarily a lead ball handler at all. He was mostly playing off-ball, and I think one of the things that Jared McCain does so well is find space off the ball and run around the perimeter to hunt for an open, you know, catch and shoot three-point opportunity where he knocks them down super efficiently. So again, this is a sniper who's capable of, you know, being an elite NBA shooter someday, hopefully sooner rather than later. At 16th overall, I think you gotta love the pick, man. I really do. And again, you know, Jared McCain, great competitor. Like this is a guy we can get behind, you know, as far as the toughness, the competitiveness, like he has all of that stuff. He wants to win. And I think he's a smart defender. Like he uses his body well. While he might be short and a little bit, you know, undersized for the guard, he's a strong guy. Like he's got a good frame to him and he's a little bit bulkier and he's got a good lower base to him. So like, you know, the 3-point shooting, he's going to be able to get those shots off. He's going to be able to hang in there, use his body well through contact offensively and defensively. This is, you know, definitely a guy with intriguing upside that at 16, I think you got to be thrilled about. A lot of people wanted Dowtin connect. You know, he had a great summer league, but again, you know, I think for the 16th overall pick, there's not a player player that you could say is a ton better than Jared McCain going into the draft and that you can expect, you know, higher ceiling from. I think him and Dowtin Connect are kind of similar tier players. Like Dowtin Connect has some of his issues too. Like he is a great off-ball shooter, no question, from the forward spot, but I don't think he's ever going to be a very good defender, and I don't think he's, you know, ever going to be necessarily a great athlete. So I think, you know, he's also a much older prospect. So I think, you know, there are, you know, things to like and dislike about both of them, but at the end of the day, Jared McCain is who we went with. I'm thrilled with it. I think it's an A+ pick. You don't necessarily address a need, but we didn't necessarily need to either at that time because, you know, the roster was so empty that we just maybe took the best player available, and I think that's a good pick. But yeah, you know, the shooting is certainly, you know, top tier. If you haven't watched Jared McCain play, make sure you go check him out on YouTube, some of the highlights and stuff like that. But again, the playmaking is a lot better on the ball than I thought it would be. He does have a lot of upside there. He's making passes that were pretty crazy to me. To the second round pick in the NBA draft, the 41st overall pick, which was Adem Bona, who is a undersized center, who is a monster athlete. Okay, this guy is 6'8", you know, as a center, but listen, he plays so much bigger than that. He's a physical guy, another guy that has, you know, basically came out and, you know, started playing basketball super late into his teens, just like Joel Embiid. I think they can kind of bond over that, and, you know, maybe Joel Embiid can give him a lot of pointers. I've heard Joel Embiid talk about how since he started playing so late, like he actually didn't come into the league with any bad habits, and I think, or into college with any bad habits. So I think there are pros and cons to having players start late, but I think one of the pros is you could see a measurable upside from Adem Bona because he started so late. We don't even know what his best basketball looks like, but for now we do know that he's a lot more NBA ready than we thought he was, because if you look at his summer league film, this guy was a monster out there. Like he looked like, you know, just a guy that could step in day one and be a quality backup or third string center, and he'll be the third string center on this team. But I will say about Adem Bona, okay, for one, we're gonna love his intensity on both ends. He plays so hard on both ends. He gives everything he has. He's a great lob finisher, great shot blocker. Okay, he's gonna make some defensive plays where you go, holy cow, this guy's a freak. While he might be undersized, he uses his body well. He's a very, very strong guy and just a ton of upside, you know, no question about it. I think, you know, again, I mentioned how you know, Embiid's gonna be taking a lot of rest days, and, you know, on those back-to-backs, Andre Drummond's gonna have to come in and fill that starting role at the 5. So in those cases, Bona will be the backup 5. So not really sure we have anybody else on the roster who's gonna be able to do that. So I think you know, Bona playing the, you know, third string 5, and when Embiid rests, or, you know, knock on wood, he doesn't get injured, but if he does, that's our backup 5. So I think it's a very, very good pick to get in the second round, where you basically have a guy that's a lot more NBA ready than you thought, with a lot of upside. That's a monster athlete at the 5-man position. And so while we do lose Paul Reed and Mo Bamba, you get exceptional value on both of these picks, primarily the backup 5 position, or the third string 5 position, with Adem Bona, 41st overall. If you could get this guy to come in and play solid minutes when Embiid's out, this is a great value pick, because now you don't have to go out and sign one in the buyout market. Now you don't have to go out and, you know, trade for one if it becomes an issue. So again, A+ draft for the Philadelphia 76ers. I think both of these guys see minutes next season, you know, hopefully, and I mean this respectfully, not too many, because if they do see too many, it's likely that an injury happened. But I think both of these guys you can expect to make big impacts when they are on the floor. These are guys that can come in and provide, again, short burst, big time impacts. With Jared McCain's shooting ability, you know, you could see him play a couple minutes here and there and make some big shots in short bursts. And then, you know, in the time that Adem Bona needs to play, you could see him come in, you know, block some shots, get some big high energy effort rebounds, make some big time plays, finish some big time lobs. And so I think this is a great draft for the Sixers. 2 monster additions that we have, and I think, you know, neither of them have played anywhere close to their best basketball yet, and I think McCain has, you know, really great upside. So I'm just really thrilled about the draft. I think it's an A+ draft as well. Without further ado, folks, let's get into their, you know, entire 2025 76ers roster deep dive. This is my favorite part of the deep dives, and I can't wait to talk about my Sixers. Let's go, folks. We're going to have to start with the man, the myth, the process himself, you know, Joel the Process Embiid. And, you know, despite of what, you know, whatever you think of Joel Embiid, you know, there is mixed opinions throughout the world, I guess. You know, we saw it over the Olympics. We saw it over the, you know, NBA season last year, or the last couple of years, really. You either kind of, he's one of those guys, you either kind of love him or you hate him. I love him, and I think most Sixers fans do, okay? You know, you could say Joel Embiid's a choker. He's never healthy, and, you know, there are some valid criticisms to his playoff performance differences. A lot of them aren't healthy full series. One of the things I think Paul George is going to do so well for this team next season is take enough pressure off of Joel Embiid in the regular season to where he doesn't necessarily have to put himself in positions to play hero ball and get injured all the time. You know, one of the things I think Joel Embiid does with these last few years and these rosters, like he feels like he has to do everything on both ends. And I think that contributes to him getting injured. Like it just does. You know, he makes plays that he wouldn't necessarily have to make if he had better, you know, teammates around him that he felt comfortable with. You know, he cannot be expected. I think at this point it's fair to say, like, while he is an all-time great player, skill set wise, and he's an MVP, right? Last season, you saw even more dominant success from him when he was on the floor healthy during those first 30 plus games of the season. Before he got injured, he was the front runner for MVP. But I think it's fair to say, like, at this point, for 82 games and, you know, 4 playoff series, we cannot expect Joel Embiid to be scoring 35 points a game, you know, providing 10 to 12 rebounds per game, and being the dominant, you know, DPOY caliber defender, all NBA caliber defender, you know, on defense every possession. Like, and when he has to do all of the scoring in big time moments, when he has to, you know, get all those rebounds and then it, you know, provide solid, again, all world type of rim protection on the other end every single possession for this team to win, of course he's going to, you know, burn out and get injured halfway through the season. That's what we've come to expect. That is what's been happening. You know, it's just as simple as that. I know Maxey was a little bit different last year where, you know, Maxey carried a lot of the load as well, but at the end of the day, man, Paul George is going to come in and take so much of that pressure off of Joel Embiid. It's not even funny, folks. We need 1 year of good luck, folks. 1 year. Basketball gods, please grace us with 1 season of good luck. We just need it so bad. It's got to happen at some point, right? Like, just please, can we just get 1 full healthy season from a Sixers team just once? It would be, oh my goodness, folks, we need it so bad. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, Joel has been the guy that's, you know, been consistent with us. You know, a lot of these other superstars with their organizations, they don't have to put up with all this stuff that he's had to put up with. We're talking about, you know, GMs that are, you know, tweeting from burner accounts, you know, leaking players' medical information and, you know, insulting players. We're talking about a second best player that's supposed to be your running mate of the future that, you know, refuses to take a jump shot or, you know, come to practice the next season, you know, or, you know, refuses to play big in big moments. And then another guy who, you know, doesn't necessarily want to be here, well, with a beard. And so, you know, Joel has had to put up with all that. And he's been so loyal to us, as, you know, he loves the city. We love him. And I just think, you know, I'm so happy that he finally has the, you know, help he needs. And now it's up to him. You know, he's going to have to play well, no question. We're not giving him a pass here. Joel's got to, you know, play like an all-time great this season, and it primarily in the playoffs, man. We just need him healthy for an entire playoffs, okay? I think whatever the result of that is, you have to be okay with it. If everyone's healthy, Embiid, Maxey, and PG, again, there's going to be nagging injuries here and there, but assuming, you know, we're going into the playoffs at full strength, you know, for the most part, as much as a playoff team can, we have to be okay with whatever the result is. And I just think that's all we really want as Sixers fans at this point, even if it's like Eastern Conference Finals, you know, and we give it our best. We just want one time, I think, as Sixers fans, where everyone gives it their best. We play our best possible series we can, and we just get the result. You know, it doesn't, if it's winning a championship, it's winning a championship. But if it's not, I think for the most part, you have to be okay with that under those circumstances. Please, basketball gods, just 1 healthy season, 1 healthy playoff for Joel. Like, we need it. Tyrese Maxiell, you know, we already talked about how incredibly valuable he's been to our team, you know, when guys like Joel Embiid went down. And so this is one of the more reliable players in the NBA as far as durability. He is one of the more, you know, active players. Like, he just doesn't get tired. You know, it's insane how he's able to, late in games after playing 40 plus minutes, just run all over the floor as fast as he does and just outrun everybody. Like, his conditioning is insane. And we saw him bulk up a lot in the offseason. We mentioned in the intro how he's been drug tested, and basically, like, you know, Sixers fans did that to him because they're like, are you on PEDs? And he's like, you got me drug tested, right? So, you know, maybe that could contribute to one of the things that, you know, I think he could work on in his game, which is drawing contact, like, at the rim. The amount of times that Tyrese Maxiell gets to the rim and finishes is wild throughout a game, but imagine if he got fouled on half of those attempts. Like, he's a, you know, 85 plus free throw percent shooter. Like, he is obviously going to benefit from more fouls, as long as, you know, he doesn't get a little bit slower, like, with all of the, you know, muscle he's added. I'm just hoping he's able to, you know, finish a little bit better, you know, through contact, and maybe seek out a little bit more contact, okay? Because while he's an excellent finisher, I do think he just didn't get the calls last season. And if he could get to the line a little bit more using that strength that he's put on, like, I just think there's no question he's going to be a lot more dynamic than he already is. You could be looking at a 30 point per game scorer, maybe not on this team with all the the offense, but like, you know what I'm saying. So I think the strength will help him defensively as well. You know, hang in there with some of those bigger guards. You know, obviously he's one of the smaller guards, but yeah, you know, Tyrese, you know, he's only going to get better again. It doesn't matter what, you know, his body looks like. He's going to play better next season. And now he has the opportunity to not be doubled as much and not be trapped at half court as much. Like, this is wild for him. He's going to be at the top of his game, possibly can be. And I just, you know, we love Tyrese here. And one thing's for sure, whether PG stays healthy, whether Embiid plays healthy, you know, we always know Tyrese is going to show up and, you know, put up a big performance. That's just the type of guy he is. He's going to be smiling while he's doing it, folks. We love to see it. I'm actually losing my voice here. I don't know if you guys can tell, but again, we're like almost 2 hours into this recording, so bear with me if I lose my voice, folks. I'm really trying to, you know, do the best I can here. We mentioned Paul George and how his impact, you know, it takes a lot of pressure off of guys like Tyrese and Joel, primarily Joel, on both ends of the floor. You know, I think one of the things, you know, most impressive about PG is, for his longevity, is just his ability to score in a variety of ways. And I think that is what's most dynamic about him. He's also a very capable playmaker, but like obviously one of the more dynamic two-way players in the league, you know, but at his size, being able to take people off the dribble as much as he is, you know, any type of defender, big or small, he's able to get a bucket like when he really needs to. It could be from the mid-range, it could be, you know, off of a screen, it could be on a DHO, it could be a catch and shoot, it could be a, you know, defender that he just breaks down with his handles, it could be getting to the rim. Like, he could score in almost any way he wants, realistically. Like, I think it's just so impressive how he's able to do that on all three levels. And I think that, again, you know, now it's going to be even easier for him to do that with other guys. We always talk about how much pressure he's going to take off of Joel and Maxey. We don't talk about how much pressure Maxey and Embiid take off of him. Like, there is no scenario where you can double PG. There's no scenario really where you can double Maxey. Like, I think the only one that could get doubled from time to time is Joel. But then, you know, you got snipers out there looking to snipe, you know? So it's like, yeah, I just think PG is just gonna be so big for this team, no question, on both ends. And one of the guys we haven't talked about yet is one of my favorite players on this team, Ricky Council IV. And I actually think Ricky Council, you know, is going to be in line for a backup 3 role. You know, it'll be interesting to see if Ricky Council will be able to put it together a consistent season shooting the basketball from 3. This is the one thing he needs to work on, because individually I think his defense is great. You know, we saw Ricky Council get an extension with this team last season. We saw him put up big numbers in the summer league, but the 3-point shooting is always going to be the biggest concern with him. Can he shoot a consistent 3? That's the big thing, because he does play good defense and he is maybe the best athlete on the team, basically the best dunker I've ever seen the Sixers have, like, no question. And so, like, his finishing ability is exceptional. You know, if he could just knock down a catch and shoot at 36% on decent volume and make the defense respect that, he gets the backup 3 role for me, no question. Like, I just think he's that type of player with that type of upside. He played really well when we needed him most. Another absolute dog for this team last season. You know, the guards, we have to get into the guards. Tyrese Maxiell, Jared McCain, Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, and Reggie Jackson, and Jeff Dowtin Jr., because he's also in the mix. So that is 6 guards right there, okay? Tyrese Maxiell will certainly be the starting point guard, no question. He's going to get 35 minutes a game. And then, you know, at the 2 guard, it's Kelly Oubre, but he's not necessarily a guard, right? So, like, off the bench, you're going to have Eric Gordon at the backup 2, in my opinion, and then Kyle Lowry at the backup 1. So those are your 4 guards right there. But then again, you know, I could see a scenario where Jared McCain or Reggie Jackson sneak into the rotation one game or another. You know, these guys that are older, like Eric Gordon, like Kyle Lowry, they're going to take rest games, like, no question. So that's when you see a Jared McCain step up, try to earn a role. That's when you see Reggie Jackson step up, try to get you through a game, you know? So these are the types of things I think for the guard rotation. But for now, for me, it's Maxey at the 1, Kelly at the 2, Kyle Lowry at the backup 1, and Eric Gordon at the backup 2. Those other 2 guys will have to find, you know, figure out how to get a role, right? They'll have to compete for it, no question. Everyone's going to earn their role. Talk about Drummond and how he, you know, affects this team as a backup 5. We've already talked about most of these players, but I just want to give a little brief description, you know, through all of them again. You know, the guards, you know, we don't have to dive too much into, because we've talked about them ad nauseum. But like Andre Drummond, again, he's just going to be so big for this team, like physically and presence wise. Like, he's just, I can't wait to see how much value he's going to bring at that backup 5 spot. And when Joel Embiid needs those back-to-back days, like, again, the foul trouble for these opposing centers can be massive. But then Adem Bona, you know, he's only 21 years old. We talked about how he's got a big body and big frame for his size, listed at 6'8", 240, but he plays much bigger and he's on a 2nd round contract. So again, if you could get 3rd string center production out of him, you absolutely win the 2nd round, like, no question about it. One player we haven't gotten into is Jeff Dowtin Jr. You know, we talked about him briefly with the guard rotation, but I think he is the last guard off of the bench, and I think he's more likely a reserve in that regard. But I do think he makes the roster, and I do think, you know, he's just a different type of guard than we have for a point guard. You know, he's a bigger point guard than we have. You know, he's got a good length to him. I think he's a good defender. He's a guy that's, jumped around the league a little bit, but, earned a contract here last season. And I think he's a good 3-point shooter, good playmaker. I like his decision making. It's really good for me. So, again, just a different type of guy that we have. There's a good chance throughout the season you could see him and Reggie Jackson fight for that backup, the third string point guard minute. So that'll be interesting to see there. I think the most notable thing for me is going to be like the backup 4. Like, who's going to win that job? Because again, it's going to be between KJ Martin and Yabusele. I think Yabusele has as good of a chance as, KJ Martin for sure, because I do think personally, not to put down KJ Martin, but I do think personally Yabusele is the more versatile player with a, more intriguing type of upside. He has, for one, not shown what he's capable of doing in the NBA. I think you have to give him that opportunity. He hasn't played an NBA game since 2018. So I think, again, you give him that opportunity, see what he has. There's always a chance, Coach Nurse always likes to shake up the lineup. So if Yabusele's the hot hand, he'll play him. If KJ Martin plays better, he'll play him. Again, I'm losing my voice here. I apologize. I'm trying to get through it. But I just think as far as the backup 4, that'll be the most interesting. Will we see a trade halfway through the season for a guy like DFS, Dorian Finney-Smith? It'll be interesting to see. But I think one of those guys definitely earns a role in the team. No question. Someone's got to take those backup 4 minutes, and it's not going to be, that can't be positionless. Like, you need a backup 4. Okay. And so, like, it's going to be Yabusele or KJ Martin for me. And I think, by the first 5-6 games of the season, you'll kind of see what that looks like. But I think, again, Coach Nurse, his lineups and rotations are always being shaken up. So throughout the season, I think you'll see both of them at times. And I think you'll see the same thing with the guards. It's not going to be a set thing. Coach Nurse doesn't like to set lineups like that and keep them throughout the entire season. He likes to shake things up, try experiment with different lineups. He always does that. So, and again, a lot of these guys are veterans. So, guys like Embiid, PG, Drummond, Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry, these guys are going to have rest days, okay, on back-to-backs. And so, like, that's when you see these guys step in and try to make big time impact and earn a role, for the rest of the season. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the roster deep dive, folks. I do apologize. I would go into a little bit more detail, but unfortunately my voice is like completely shot. This is a very, very stressing recording for my voice. I'm yelling a lot. I'm projecting my voice, so it's going to get strained by the end of it. I'm drinking water. Don't worry, folks. But, just to sum everything up, these are my Philadelphia 76ers for the 2025 season. I give everything an A+. I've never been more excited. I want to hear from you other Sixers fans, down in the comments section. Do you hate me for my Tobias Harris take? Do you think I'm a fraud, right? That's the kind of stuff I want to hear. No, I'm kidding. But like, just, generally, how excited are you for this season? Like, what do you think about the KJ Martin trade? What do you think about all of the stuff I talked about in this video? Please let me know down in the comments. I want to engage with other Sixers fans. We don't have to agree on everything. That's fine. Like, we don't have to hate each other either. Like, we can disagree and still respect each other. We can, you can think I have stupid takes and still respect me. Like, I really hope, a lot of you guys are able to do that, because I respect all of you. I really do. And I thank you for watching the video, even if you didn't enjoy it. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. You guys have been absolutely amazing with the support. Maybe you guys, if you could be so kind, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. These are the biggest things you can do. Like, comment, subscribe. Those are the 3 biggest things you can do, and share it to a friend. Okay. So if you have somebody, that's into hoops, share the channel, because we do upload videos just like this almost every day on the channel. I know I've been slacking a little bit with the uploads. It's just because I'm trying to pace myself a little bit. These deep dives are really hard to put together. They're a long process to put together. And so you guys got to trust the process. All right. It's not an easy thing. 40-minute plus videos every day. Like, it's just, I did that for a while, but I'm kind of trying to pace myself until the regular season. We got a lot of content planned for you guys, a lot of stuff coming up, including Twitch. I'm going to be streaming on Twitch very soon. So make sure you guys follow my Twitch. We're going to start up regular streams probably next week. Okay. So it's going to be very soon, within the next few weeks, 100%. I don't know exactly what day it's going to be, but we're going to be doing like NBA content over there. It's just a different way to engage with you guys and for you guys to engage with me, so I could talk to you guys in real time. We can play some 2K. You guys can give me, some tips. We could just talk hoops over there. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun stuff planned for it, so make sure you guys do follow my Twitch. Links down in the description, or it's just twitch.tv/dhave. So if you guys do want to follow it, that would really mean a lot to me. Yeah, but again, subscribe, like, let me know down in the comment section, Sixers fans, non-Sixers fans, how we feeling. I think personally we have as good of a chance in the Eastern Conference as anyone to take down Boston. That includes New York, that includes Milwaukee. I think we're up there in that type of tier. Like, it's going to be us versus Boston. And when I say us, I mean like, every other Eastern Conference team. But I do think we have as good of a chance as the Knicks. I probably give us and the Knicks the best chance. And then, Milwaukee kind of, a little bit similar chance. And then teams like Miami, Orlando got a lot better. Indiana, who we'll talk about, Cleveland, like these teams also have a good chance. I just think we're a little bit better than those teams to take down Boston. And honestly, Boston, while they didn't get a whole lot better in the offseason, they didn't really lose anybody either. So it's going to be interesting. I do think this team is is as good of any Sixers team I've watched on paper, certainly. So we'll have to see how they execute it. But, you know, Coach Nurse, you know, I got to say my piece on him too. Like, he has been so amazing for this team. One of the top tier coaches in the league, in my opinion. He is worth the reputation he came over with, and I just think he's executed that so well. Like, I just love him as a coach. I've never seen a Sixers coach this good in my entire life. You know, I wasn't, you know, conscious enough for the Larry Brown era. I didn't watch the Sixers at that time. When I started, it was Doug Collins, and then it went to Brett Brown. So I've only really seen a few coaches for the Sixers, and I think, you know, Coach Nurse is certainly the best of the bunch. But make sure you guys, you know, again, make sure you guys let me know down in the comments how you're feeling. Go Sixers. Here they come. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Sixers. 10, 9, 8, 76ers. Stomp your feet, clap your hands. You guys already know. I hope to hear that song 70 times next season throughout the regular season and the playoffs. Let's get into it, folks. Let's get going for the regular season. Let's get pumped. Hope you guys are as pumped as me. I miss basketball so much. Again, the Olympics just ended and I'm like going nuts. But yeah, I want to talk to you guys about all this stuff like on Twitch. So make sure you guys go follow that. You know, I will be streaming pretty soon. Please stay tuned with the channel. You know, more deep dives to come. We're almost done the entire series. I will be uploading more frequently. Again, I know I've been slacking a little bit. I've just been taking some time to recuperate. Again, my voice is completely shot, so it's going to be interesting to see how I recover from that. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today. Make sure you guys stay safe and pray to the basketball gods for no injuries next season. I will catch you guys in the next one tomorrow. This is your boy D Haven as always. Peace.